Hi, I'm Bart Hanson, the owner and operator of CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time every Monday. If you want to call in your hand, check out the phone number in the description.
That's me. So I have a question about a 3-5 hand. It's 3-5, but it's a spread limit, a 500 max bet, $1,000 buy-in.
Okay.
I'm in the here, let me back up a second. So villain 1 is a middle-aged, white guy. I've never seen him before. Villain 2 is a mid-20s Asian kid. I've never seen him before either. The action is, I'm in the small blind. The action is under the gun is villain 2, the Asian kid. He's got $750. The villain 1's going to be the middle-aged white guy in the big blind, and he's 1K, and I cover both of them.
Okay.
There's two limps in middle position. This table was pretty nitty. There were guys that were limping ace-king, limping jacks. Sometimes they would limp re-raise, sometimes they wouldn't. So there's the two limps, or there's the under-the-gun limp, two other middle position limps, and it comes around to me in the small blind. I have ace of clubs, 9 of spades. Sometimes I'll raise that if it's a weak table and just kind of take down the dead money. This table, I was like, these guys are going to limp re-raise. The guy in the big blind does not look like a guy that's going to squeeze. So, or at least, I don't have to worry about essentially, putting my $2 in and then having him raise. Doesn't look like the type of guy. So I just complete.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't think that I've ever really raised with that hand from that spot against two limpers, to be honest. Ace-9 off is not, I mean, anyways, I would almost always complete. Okay, so you complete in the big blind checks, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's 22 in the pot.
Yep.
Flop, and the two are important. Flop is 9 of clubs, 9 of hearts, jack of clubs.
Okay. You have ace of spades, you have ace of clubs, 9 of spades. Is that what it is?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So you got trip 9s here, and there's 2 clubs, and you got the ace of clubs in your hand.
Correct.
Okay.
So I lead out. I bet 20.
Okay.
The big blind calls, and the under the gun call. Excuse me. Now there's $80 in the pot. The turn is the 3 of clubs.
So the under the gun was the guy, because I thought it was just MP1 and MP2 that had limped in, but he limped in. Under the gun limped in.
The first villain is in the big blind. Mm-hmm. He's a middle-aged white guy.
Right.
The second villain is the 20s Asian guy under the gun.
Okay.
So the turn's the 3 of clubs, and here I'm thinking, is one of them have a 9? Does somebody have a straight draw, flush draw?
Mm-hmm.
If I bet here and I get raised, am I building a pot with a hand where I'm already beat by a flush? So I decided to check it and see what happens.
Okay.
So I check, and the big blind bets 60, and
mm-hmm.
the under the gun calls.
Yeah, it's always interesting in this spot whether or not you should bet or not, because you block someone having the nut flush. You know, you obviously want to continue to get value from a 9. So you don't want to get checked through against a 9. And then, but I mean, it doesn't really make that much of a difference if a guy has a straight draw. I mean, you've got ace-9, so there are really only a few cards that they can hit. The other thing, too, about the ace of clubs is if you bet out, I think you're rarely going to get raised. Even with somebody who has a non-nut flush nowadays in poker, people just don't raise that much because of this situation. You bet the flop and you've bet the turn. Someone has like king 10 of clubs or king queen, they're not necessarily going to raise because of this action. The board is paired and they've got the second nut, so whether you check here or bet, I think it's fine because I don't think you're going to get raised. So I might even lean a little bit more towards betting to get called by a jack and because I'm not going to get raised. And then you can evaluate what you want to do on the river. You know what I mean? But check, big blind bet 60, under the gun calls, and I assume you call?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So this is the interesting part of the hand for me doing some hand reading and thinking about what my options are. The river is a 7 of diamonds.
Okay.
I decide to check it,
Mm-hmm.
and the pot's $240. The big blind bets $50.
240 or 260 or two? Wait a minute. 60, 120,
260.
260. Sorry. So one of the straights comes in, right? One of the straights comes in 10-8, and so the river's a 7 of diamonds. You decide to check. The big blind bet's 50.
It's 50.
Okay.
Under the gun calls. And I'll be honest, it didn't even occur to me that to turn this hand into a bluff until I really started thinking about this hand. And it's, can I turn this hand into a bluff? I think that if I call the 50, I'm throwing away $50. If I'm getting almost 6 to 1, it's going to be really hard fold. So with the nut blocker, the nut flush blocker, knowing that if either one of those two has a full house, I think the betting would have been different. I think the small blind bets more than 50. If the under the gun has a full house, he's raising. So I almost feel like it's impossible for anyone to have a boat, and it's impossible for anyone to have the nut flush.
Yeah, I mean I think the bet is small enough where you probably can just call though. I don't think you're throwing away like. I don't know if I would necessarily turn my hand into a bluff in this spot. I mean, you do have decent blockers because you hold a 9.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess I could see it. No one's got the nut flush. You hold the 9, and the sizing indicates that these guys aren't really that strong. Big blind bets turn and big blind bets river. It looks like big blind probably has a flush. And he can have any flush, by the way, too, which is another layer to this, right? Because he's random. So he can have some of the lower flushes, too, right? He's not going to have, broadways. So looking at that, yeah, I think that you probably could raise here and get them to fold.
Yeah, I think at least one guy has a flush. And I'll be honest, it did not even occur to me to raise as a bluff with a relatively strong hand, although I didn't think it was good. I mean, I threw in the $50.
Yeah.
And after thinking about it, I was like, I really think I could have gone,
you could have made it like 500, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so once I tell you what happened, yeah, I definitely would have got through, but I wanted your opinion on whether or not you actually would ever turn a hand like this into a bluff.
Yeah, I think looking at it now against two players with your hands, and now figuring that the big blind can have any small flush. Yeah, I definitely think that you could do this, and the sizing doesn't really indicate that. Anyone really is super duper strong. So. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you listened to the podcast from a couple weeks ago when I tried to turn my set into a bluff and it didn't work, but I like this play better.
Yeah. No. This is one of the few, I'm pretty sure, I heard that, that I'm pretty sure it would have gotten through. Well, I know it would have gotten through, but it just didn't occur to me at the time. I'm like, I have the option to raise here. I'm like, either I'm folding or I'm calling, and I didn't even think about it. So thinking about this hand led me to think a little bit more on these close rivers, whether or not, realizing, hey, look, I can potentially turn these hands into bluffs too, even though they're relatively strong.
So what ended up happening? What did they show down?
Yeah, so villain 1 in the big blind had 6-9, and villain 2 under the gun had queen of clubs, 8 of clubs.
That's interesting. Because I was going to say that, like, I wondered how often the big blind was going to bet a 9 with the guy behind him. Sort of weird. So the big blind, that's way too thin. That's a dumb. See, this is why sometimes these plays don't. Here's the thing, though, Chris, is like when we look at this hand, when we're doing the hand reading, the big blind is the one that's supposed to have like a weakish flush, not really the under the gun. Although the under the gun can end up with a flush too, but it's unlikely because it would be 2 combos. So we're looking at this from a perspective of, you're checking a 9 on the turn because now you feel like well, we said it was close, right? On the turn, I said I still might bet, but it's probably pretty close against two callers, right? On the flop, whether or not our hand is good enough to bet for value on the turn, right? So the big blind should never be going bet with 6-9,
I
right?
think
On the turn or on the river. So he obviously has no clue what's going on. So what I'm saying is that when you get into these scenarios, you make a check raise like this and you're like, I'm going to get this guy middling, like sort of off of a flush. We think he has a flush. The other guy, he probably has a marginal jack, or he might have some sort of 9 that's going to be very difficult to him, call with. And then you end up in a scenario where, oh, it's the guy behind with queen 8 of clubs, and now he throws in a call just because he's not capable of folding a flush. You know what I mean? And we've sort of not read the hand correctly because the guy in the middle is obviously sort of a dolt, right? I mean, he should never be going bet with 9-6 here. So
right, I think it was a sort of a blocker bet. Sort of, I flop trips and I play once a month, and so I think I need to bet the river.
Right.
Just like he definitely had that look about him, like, what do I do? Let me throw 2 green chips in there and it's $50.
Because let me ask you this question. Just as an aside, and that's like I said, like I don't know if that guy with queen 8 would have folded, but what happens if you check the river, okay? The big blind checks, and now the guy who's under the gun now bets 200.
Yeah. Ooh.
Because that's probably what would have happened if the river had gone the way it was supposed to go.
You're right.
So
I probably would have folded.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that like it's the same blocker concepts though. Against the under the gun guy, it just now, because the hand has been switched around a little bit and sizing, it just looks like he's stronger. And now it's just a situation where, well, yeah, we've got the good blockers to make a bluff, but is the guy going to fold? So that little so that little wrinkle of this guy in between doing something that he shouldn't have been doing has sort of changed the entire hand around. And the guy under the gun ends up with a much stronger hand than he should have,
Right. Yeah. If it goes that way, I don't think the guy under the gun is doing that with just a 9. He's got a straight or a flush.
Yeah.
If he comes out and leads for 200, especially in this game, it's such a nitty game. From time to time in Arizona, this casino can be super nitty, and you just don't see a lot of guys. I just don't see that guy doing that with a 9, especially since he doesn't have ace 9. He doesn't even have the best 9. Well, I guess he could if I'm chopping with him, but I would see someone doing that with less than a straight.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a weird. Yeah, it kind of sucks because you just chalk that one up, but it definitely throws a wrinkle in there when you add a guy like this into the hand, and then you don't really know exactly what he's doing represents what, because like obviously he's not supposed to be betting here at the end. So, but thanks for the call, Chris. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bart.
Hey guys, if you like what you've seen here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time we put up a new video. And if you want to check out crushlivepoker.com for the first month free, use the code YTA100. Click on the link right there.